Well, good evening. I call the special meeting of the Ames City Council for Tuesday, April 9th to order. And tonight, the special meeting only has one item on the agenda, and that is the new state-mandated additional public hearing regarding proposed property tax levy for fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. And I've asked Corey if he could just give us a quick review of a presentation he made previously, and then also maybe some other comments before we go ahead and open it up for public input.
Great, thank you. Just a few quick slides here. What we have on the screen is a sample of what was sent to residents, and I know that it's a little bit confusing, so I thought we'd just do a kind of a brief run through of what the statements indicated. This is actually the statement broken down into two parts, so that line dictates the two parts. So this top piece that was sent to residents is the city portion, and it indicates the current property tax collection in this column. This is for non-agricultural related property. This is the current tax rate that's in effect currently, so $10.20 for non-agricultural property, then of course $3. Roughly for ag property. I think the confusion that we've gotten some comments on is the effective tax rate. What is an effective tax rate? The effective tax rate is what the tax rate would be if the city did not request any additional property taxes. So had the city not collected more than the $34.7 million collected in last year, the effective tax rate, the new tax rate, would be $9.75. So that's an indication of, I guess what the indication there is that the increased property taxes resulted in a $10.09 levy rate instead of a $9.75 tax rate. So that's really what that row, or excuse me, column is intended to indicate. As we've discussed during our budget process, the city is proposing a $35.9 million in property tax collection for the upcoming fiscal year. The other issue we have down here on the bottom of this page that was sent to property taxpayers that is a little bit confusing. This is a valuation of property for $100,000, and it says that a resident in the city of Ames and the city's portion of the tax payment is $557 a year for $100,000 property. So that's a little bit misleading given that valuations have increased significantly in the last year. So what that doesn't take into account is that most valuations went up roughly 20%. We talked about that during the special budget meeting. And so this form indicates that our property tax collections on $100,000 property are going to go down roughly 16%. Now we know that's not true because valuations have risen. And it's difficult for us to tell each individual property taxpayer what their property tax bill will be in the upcoming fiscal year. But this is a way to indicate what it would be on a $100,000 property if there was no valuation change. I think the interesting thing that we have down here is a commercial property is valued as a residential property for the first $150,000. So that's why it's the same as a residential property above. There really is no difference there.
Corey, do we have any input on what these forms look like? Because when I look at that, you can't see it up here because you've covered it up, but there are two taxing authorities that are just called Ames. And one of those is the school district and one of them is the city.
Yep.
And the average person looking at that is probably going to say, why is the city taxing me twice?
Yep. No, we don't have any direction to the county who issues the statements in terms of what's on the statement. So we're just providing them the information through a state system, and they're using that information that we provide them to print out the statement. So no, we don't have any input on what the statements look like. So unfortunately, but there are other school districts. There's the Gilbert School District and a few others too that also receive a little bit of a different statement. That's why we blocked out the numbers, is because it's not the same for everybody. So no, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have any. We can't provide direction for that piece of information.
And to build on that too, would you just share how this form came about and who created the form and who all gets the same kind of a form?
Yeah. So the last part of that question first, every property taxpayer in the state gets a form from their local auditor, their county auditor, with the information provided by the school district, the city, and the county. the bill, House File 718, was the directive of the form. So we don't control any of the contents in the form. We provide the information in a state mandated system. They format it in a way that was dictated by the bill, and that's what's sent to all the property taxpayers. So our responsibility is to come up with the preliminary budget, provide the information, and then of course hold this public hearing and hear feedback from residents if there is any.
I think we try to do a better job during the budget hearing. We have a form that
Yep.
finance prepares. Do you have it there?
Yeah, thanks for the lead, Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
No, that's great. So this is when we do we call it the special budget meeting, but the Friday before we kick off kind of a review of a comprehensive budget, we provide this information to the council. And what we've tried to do is adjust for valuation. I know we had some conversation during the budget process about what does that look like? We do it in two ways. We do it just like the state did, but we also recognize that that's a little bit misleading. And so we try and adjust for the average valuation increase here. So what was a $100,000 property last year is now $119,644 property. So we've tried to adjust for that valuation on average as we get that information. We go through the same calculations the state does, the rollback adjustments, and it comes up to an impact to the $100,000 from last year, what the valuation would be. So what we're suggesting, you can see on this slide on them, is a $2.22 change per $100,000 in the upcoming year for the average property. Once again, everybody's property valuation is different. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but we're just trying to show to the council and the public generally what the impact is to property taxpayers. And again, that's a 0.4% increase.
As compared to the commercial and industrial, it has a bigger fluctuation.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, that's a $100,000 property of commercial property. That doesn't take into account that the average valuation of property maybe is $300,000. So we try and take the adjustment and the valuation and the rollback differently to try and show a more holistic picture instead of just the first 100,000, because it's really not a depiction of what the actual value will be for most properties.
All right.
The other piece that you're not seeing here is how the city of Ames compares with our peer communities in Iowa. And I didn't understand this either before I got on council. That when you look at the millage rate, the cost of services that we are charging our community, it's much lower than our peer communities. And I think we provide an outstanding level of service for a much lower amount. So I hope that when people take the time to look at our taxes, they don't look just at the breakdown of Ames. I mean, certainly there's value in that, but to see it in the context of how we're doing with respect to our peer communities, then you realize, oh my stars, we're living in a great community. And so you don't have that frame of reference. So, and that's because of the long and hard work that you guys have done. It's under Steve's leadership for decades of trying to keep our taxpayers happy in the community. That's a story that we also need to tell.
So in summary, for the average house, the estimated increase amount of taxes is about $2.22 per $100,000 of valuation.
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll open up the public hearing, and anyone who is in attendance is welcome to come to the podium. And if you would just introduce yourself, and you're welcome to make comments. If there are questions, you can pose the questions. We'll write them down. We will not answer them on the spot, and then we'll ask staff to respond to them. So is anyone who wants to address council? If there is none, then we will end up closing the public hearing, and then we will adjourn the meeting. So,
Thank you.
all right, we will close the public hearing. And Corey, I presume that you and Nancy will stick around for a few
Absolutely.
minutes. If anyone else has any questions that they would like to have clarified, you're welcome to talk to you. Corey is our Director of Finance, and Nancy, what is your official title? I'm not exactly sure. You're a fixture here for a long, long time. What is it?
Budget. Yeah.
There you go. So,
Corey, I have a question. So if someone wanted to learn more about the budget and about their property taxes, where should they look to find those on the city website?
Yep. So the City of Ames Finance does have a budget, or does have a page, and we list all of our budget documents on the front of that page. And in fact, the special report, we call it the special report, is probably the best way to learn. And that's where this diagram came from, is the best way to discuss and review property taxes. Then we're also open for phone calls and emails anytime as well.
Yeah. And maybe one more thing, Mayor, to reinforce, the city council has no role in creating the assessments for the property. We just need to say that over and over again. That's an independent activity. You don't want elected officials pulling the levers on property values. So that's, if people are concerned about the assessment part, then those calls should go to the assessor.
Right.
But the buck stops here, though, for the city's portion of the budget. So we're happy to field questions on those. So this is always good to remind people the different roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
There's like, all right. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. We will reconvene at 6 o'clock.